Superhero movies have come a long way, from nipples on the batsuit to cellophane S's.
What was that? Yeah, take that, you jerk. That was a minor inconvenience. Yeah, well, that's the idea. Slowed you down, I'll say. Ow. Didn't see that coming, did you? No. Yeah, well, take that.
To now being at the forefront of modern cinema. But it begs the question, can this genre last forever? Can superhero movies stay at the forefront of modern cinema, or will it fade away? And that's why I'm here to answer the question, will a superhero movie bubble burst? To answer this question, I think we need to go back almost 100 years, back to the 1920s, and the birth of the first cinematic universe, the Universal Monsters. In 1923, Universal released The Hunchback of Notre Dame, a silent film featuring Lon Chaney as the character Quasimodo. The success of this film was the launchpad for Universal to build their brand, with films such as The Man Who Laughs, The Phantom of the Opera, and then finally, in the 1930s, they expanded their brand, bringing horror icons such as Dracula,
I am Dracula,
Frankenstein's monster,
It's alive!
and The Invisible Man. Universal also made a number of sequels to these films such as The Bride of Frankenstein, The Invisible Man Returns, and Dracula's Daughter. Then in 1943, Universal created the first cinematic universe with the release of Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Could you imagine if this is how all crossovers happened after that? Thor meets Iron Man.
Shakespeare in the Park. Doth mother know you weareth her drapes?
Who meets Captain America? Who meets Black Widow? Who meets Hawkeye?
We're still friends, right?
Depends on how hard you hit me.
Batman meets Superman. Anyways, it was one of, if not the first crossover movie, and much like DC and Marvel, Universal had the characters unique enough and interesting enough to do it. The crossovers continued throughout the 1940s with films such as The House of Frankenstein, The House of Dracula, even managing to squeeze in a couple of crossovers with Abbott and Costello. The 1950s soon rolled around, and Universal continued to pump out monster movies, with The Creature from the Black Lagoon, which is self-spawned 2 sequels, The Revenge of the Creature, and The Creature Walks Among Us. But all of a sudden it seemed like the love for monster movies had faded, and the hot streak that Universal had caught only 20 years earlier had died. Nothing really of note happened for Universal and its monsters for quite some time until the year 1999, and yep, you guessed it, the release of The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. The movie was a financial success, grossing over $450 million worldwide, but despite the success of the first movie, sequels and spin-offs didn't really manage to reach expectations and were both panned critically. The Mummy Returns only really serving as a jumping off point for a little-known actor known as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. With Universal's dreams at a second start of the cinematic universe pretty much dead in the water, we can now turn our focus to the year 2000 and the release of X-Men, where I feel this whole superhero boom really kicked off. Some could argue that Superman in 1978 started it, or even Batman 89, but I don't really agree. Those movies only really spawned more sequels, and in the end, both franchises died a horrible death. Whereas off the back of X-Men, we got Spider-Man, Blade, Daredevil, a second X-Men movie, Spider-Man 2, The Incredibles, Hellboy, The Punisher, Batman Begins, The Fantastic Four, Elektra, V for Vendetta, Sin City, Superman Returns, a third X-Men movie, Spider-Man 3, Fantastic Four, The Rise of the Silver Surfer, Ghost Rider. Since the year 2000 all the way up to 2007, we've had over 18 superhero movies, and that's just the most popular ones. I know not all of them were groundbreaking or even good. For every Spider-Man 2 we got a Fantastic Four, but comic book movies were proving to be a financial success. Even some of the bad ones managing to get sequels. At this point in the video, you may be confused as to why I started with Universal back in 1920 and brought us up to the year 2007. Because it proves that times change. And I feel like Universal were unable to ride the wave of change and couldn't deliver those groundbreaking movies that they did back in the day. And they made some pretty awful sequels and some lackluster spin-offs. And their failure to evolve and deliver great movies killed their universe. Even at this point where we call superhero movies their own genre, instead of just action, thriller, crime, or whatever that particular superhero movie fits into, not all genres stand the test of time. Western had its time in the sun, musicals, found footage, even slasher films aren't that big anymore. All these movies had their time to shine, but seemingly all failing to stand the test of time. I feel as though there is a reason for this though. Could it be that previously mentioned genres only appeal to one market? For example, Universal monsters, slasher movies only really appeal to horror fans and teenagers? Obviously there is exceptions to this, but I don't think it's a massively wrong assumption to make. I guess you could agree that musicals and westerns are for everyone, but I think if my parents had taken me to a western or a musical as a kid, I'd have fallen asleep in the cinema. Which poses the question, are superhero movies destined for the same fate? Well, let's handle the no side of that argument first. It could be argued that comic book movies will never run out of inspiration or stories to draw from. plus the stories that are being published now that DC and Marvel want to adapt into films. So therefore, having 70 plus years of material to work with, it's almost impossible for them to run out of ideas. Another argument to be made is that comic movies appeal to the whole family. As a 20-year-old comic book fan, I'm aware that these movies are marketed towards kids. It's just the way it is, you know. Why would you make these characters super mature and for an older audience when you can appeal to the kids and make way more money? And that's just the truth though. Kids love these characters and they will always make their parents take them to the cinema to see these movies. And as long as these movies keep making money, which at the end of the day is what it's all about, we could potentially get superhero movies forever. Okay, now on to the yes side of that argument. So nothing lasts forever, right? Too much of something is never good. We're now at a point where comic book movies are at their most popular. In 2017 alone, we got 7 superhero movies. Bearing in mind I told you that from the years 2000 to 2007 we got 18, and now in the modern day we're getting almost half of that in 1 year. So with people like James Cameron coming out and discrediting superhero movies, saying that he feels that there's other stories that need to be told, are we about to see a shift where people will eventually get sick of seeing superhero movies? Although I don't necessarily agree with him, I personally think there's room for both. How much more of the general cinema-going audience is getting sick of these movies? If I'm honest, the train doesn't really seem to be slowing anytime soon for this genre. And if this genre does fall out of favour, I think it would be because the industry is flooded with these movies and it will become too much. I don't see that happening for a long time now, and as long as DC and Marvel continue to get good directors and these movies keep making money, I can't see Disney and Warner Brothers stopping anytime soon. They're going to ride this cash cow out to the end. And I mean, before this whole movie business started, Marvel were on the brink of collapse and DC made Batman and Robin.
Chicks dig the car.
So that's just proof how times can change. But I gotta say this though, it's honestly the most amazing time to be a comic book fan. I mean, Infinity War was like 2 weeks ago, and getting to see the Guardians match with the Avengers. Just think about this, before 2014, do you think most people will have known who Guardians of the Galaxy are? I mean, the fact that studios are even willing to take a risk on a property like that is insane. Let me know what you guys think though. That's my thought at least. I don't think we're at the end of the superhero genre yet. This bubble may pop eventually, who knows? I mean, you can't tell the future. Look what happened to Western. I'm sure back then people thought Westerns were never going to end and we've got to get them forever. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. This was just kind of some food for thought. It was a discussion that I wanted to start. I mean, the reason I started this channel was to talk about comic books with people. So if you enjoyed this, please leave a like, remember to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace.